It's Wednesday, the 5th of September. It's time to go up in the mighty Luscombe and get an Oroville update. We got a press conference later on this morning at 11 a.m. We'll get a lot of questions answered as to the construction to date. In the media, it's widely reported about the cost of Oroville so far is up to $780 million. Hold the phone. We got to interrupt this broadcast to bring you the latest numbers from DWR.
Thanks, Jeff. First, I'd like to share an update on our current cost estimates. The current cost estimate for the combined emergency spillway response and recovery efforts related to the reconstruction of the main and emergency spillways is $1.1 billion. Cost estimates are based on actual and projected work and may be adjusted further as work continues through completion of the project in 2019.
If you watch the local news reports on the $1.1 billion cost announced today on the 5 September update, you'll get reports like, the cost of Oroville has increased 4 times what the original estimate was. Well, that's completely misrepresenting the facts. Here's how the numbers break down. So here to help us make sense of these numbers is our crack financial analyst, Pete Brown. Pete, what grade are you in this year?
First grade.
And how old are you?
6. Money.
As of the last update, the costs at Oroville were somewhere on the order of $780 million. Now we're up to $1.1 billion. Where did the money go? The Kiewit contract is now up to $630 million. Remember, the very initial contract was something on the order of about $275 million. That was just at the very beginning of the project to get Kiewit Engineering working on the project with a 60% plan design. Once the plan designs were finished, then Kiewit was able to come up with a contract estimate of about $500,000. Now, as any of you know who work in the dirt business, dirt contractors have what's called a rock clause. Anytime you're working underground, you got to have a rock clause in your contract because you don't know what's going to be occurring underneath the ground. In the case of Kiewit and Oroville, remember when it came time to design the emergency spillway and the secant cutoff wall, the secant cutoff wall had to be moved a considerable distance downslope based on geological findings, thus increasing the cost of the Kiewit contract to cover all that concrete that the emergency spillway expanded by with the relocation of the secant cutoff wall, as well as the depth and size of the secant cutoff wall. So that got the Kiewit contract price up from $500 million up to $630 million. And of course, these numbers are not finished or set in stone yet. DWR costs for administrative costs and other costs related to work outside of the spillway. For example, relocating all the power lines or rebuilding all of the roads, refurbishing the property once it's all done, erosion control and that sort of thing. That number is up to $310 million. Pete, let's add this up now and see what we got. What's 0 plus 0?
0.
Okay, write a 0 there. Write it right there. What's 3 plus 1? 3 plus 1 is?
Wait, what?
3 plus 1 is 4, right. 6 plus 3 is over here. 940 million according to our crack financial team here. Now, the initial emergency response, remember, was originally estimated something along $200 to $250 million, but has since been revised downward to a mere $160 million. So we add 940 and 160 together. Pete, what do we get? What is 0 plus 0?
0.
Put it right there. Right there. What's 6 plus 4? That's right, use your fingers. What's the number? 10. Okay, put a 0 there. Put a 0 there. Put a 1 up here. Carry the 1. What's 9 plus 1 plus 1? What's 9 plus 1?
11.
Right, 11. Put 11 right there. Put a decimal right there. And there you have it, $1.1 billion, according to our crack financial team. Thanks, Pete. Is that a lot of money? Now turn around and smile for the camera. There you go. Now,
1.1 million billion dollars.
a million, billion, gazillion. Our other crack member of the Blancolirio team is just back from school with an important announcement. Julianne, what's this? What do you have here now?
I am part of the press of the Fun Times newsletter.
Really? For your school?
Mm-hmm.
And what grade are you in this year?
4th grade.
Very good. Have you been out in the field busy reporting today?
Yes.
Very good. All right. Well, now let's go back up in the mighty Luscombe and finish up the aerial portion of today's report. We've had some firefighting activity around here lately. We've had the North Fire broke out on Labor Day Monday, about 500 to 700 acres. Looks like that fire is fairly well under control. That's here in Nevada County on the Tahoe National Forest, so we're looking at 4-flight on our iPad here for TFRs, temporary flight restrictions, and they do have a temporary flight restriction to the east of us, but it's no factor for today's flight. Another fire broke out around the Georgetown area just last night, but there's no TFR up for that area at this time, so I suspect that that fire is going to be pretty well under control.
Check it out, here comes tanker 88 right now, man. Here's Colin. Very cool. Get a little buffeting from his, there you go, from his prop wash. So you can continue to operate while the air tankers are operating. Here he goes. Watch this. And he's out of here. You can continue to operate here at Nevada County Airport while the tankers are operating, and everybody's very familiar with their operating procedure, and so the traffic blends in really smoothly. It's an uncontrolled airport, Unicom frequency only. We just talk to each other and work out our patterns. I'll show you where they come in on runway 7, land uphill, take off runway 25 in the downhill direction. Nevada County traffic, Luscombe 71608, departing 25 Nevada County to the northwest for an Oroville update. Mixtures rich, fuels on the left tank, master mags are on both. Oil pressure, RPM, looking good. And we're out of here. Oroville traffic, Luscombe 71608, over Oroville Dam, 2,500 feet, left-hand orbit, Oroville. Don't pick your nose on camera. Boy, some of these things I have to really learn the hard way. You forget the cameras are always on.
Approaching the backside of the dam here on 5 September, the lake level is currently at 736 feet and will continue to drop until the rains return this winter, which will give construction crews plenty of buffer in the event there's any delay beyond the 1 November deadline to get the main spillway operational. Continuing our conversation about costs and who's going to pay for it, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, is only obligated to pay back 75% of any and all submitted costs. To date, DWR has only submitted one expense of $116.5 million, and FEMA has reimbursed DWR $87.4 million, or about 75% of that first payment. And this series of small payments will go on for quite a while, maybe over a matter of years, until we get to the total amount for this entire disaster. The remaining 25%, or any unreimbursements by FEMA, will be placed upon the shoulders of water users throughout the state, and each individual water district will have to decide how those expenses are going to be borne upon the customers. As we approach the emergency spillway, I noticed a couple of new design features that I got clarification on with Jeff Peterson of Keywood Engineering at today's press conference. Just like the main spillway, the emergency spillway has to be able to drain water out from underneath the concrete, or the RCC. These three slots here are a drain system that allow water to get out from underneath the monolith, or the OG weir, and drain out onto the top of the RCC portion of the emergency spillway. And remember too, the secant cutoff wall located right here has slots, vertical slots in it, to allow water to drain from underneath the emergency spillway. Remember, it was also the location, the far location of this secant cutoff wall and the huge size of this emergency spillway that caused the Keywood contract to expand from $500 million to $630 million. Work on this southern portion of the emergency spillway, or this upper portion in the picture, is about 72% complete and is temporarily stopped so that crews can do regularly scheduled work on the RCC batch plant located right here. RCC placing will resume on 10 September. Remember, the work on the emergency spillway will continue beyond the 1 November deadline. An RCC cold joint can be relivened with a green cut or a heavy application of water and then resume RCC placement. A concrete buttress will be built later this year, connecting the RCC splash pad to the original emergency spillway OG weir. Bending around now to the main spillway, whose basic structure will need to be in place by 1 November to handle the 2018-2019 flood season. Additional minor work will continue beyond the November 1st deadline. The upper 730 feet of the main spillway is about 63% complete, with 50 of the 150 structural slabs in place and just 2 of the structural walls in place. Remember, this section of spillway, they had to start from scratch just this season, destroying the old spillway concrete and cleaning her down to bedrock. The middle section of the main spillway is about 77% complete. To date, 175 of the 228 structural concrete slabs have been placed, and 51 out of the 76 structural concrete walls have been placed. Remember, this is the section that goes over Croyle Canyon and has a bedrock of roller compacted concrete. There was a report of one of these structural wall forms falling down, but nobody was injured that I'm aware of. And at the bottom of the spillway, the energy dissipators, or dentates, are getting a complete facelift with all new erosion-resistant structural concrete. The access road below the spillway will be removed prior to operation to prevent excess debris from entering the Thermalito diversion pool. So things look on track to make the 1 November deadline of having an operational main spillway in place, even though work will continue beyond that deadline and costs may very well continue to rise as additional expenses are experienced. But to put it all in perspective, last year's fire season in California lost and spent over $12 billion fighting forest fires just last year, 2017 alone. If you saw the story on our local KCRA news about Oroville's unsatisfactory rating for the second year in a row, you would think there was something fundamentally wrong with the dam at Oroville that's been years in the making. This is completely false and misleading information.
we'll take our next question from Juan Brown with the Union newspaper, Grass Valley, California.
The report that was widely reported in the media just yesterday about the unsatisfactory rating, is that simply because the spillway is not finished and you cannot get a satisfactory report until the spillway is finished, or is there ongoing old issues with the dam itself that they're citing in this report?
As per usual, Juan, you're right again. So any dam with a known deficiency will receive a less than satisfactory rating from the Division of Safety of Dams, the state regulatory agency, until that repair work to fix that deficiency is complete. And so what's happening with Lake Oroville, like last year, the reservoir is considered unsatisfactory because of the spillway, and until we have a fully functioning spillway again, it will stay that way. Once reconstruction work is complete on both spillways, the Division of Safety of Dams will reevaluate the facility and make a determination as to the rating. But this is common for every facility. So when you see less than satisfactory rating on that Division of Safety of Dams list, it's because there is a known deficiency, it's because there is work underway to repair that deficiency, and once that repair work is complete, the Division of Safety of Dams reevaluates the rating.
That makes complete sense. I just wish it was reported correctly that way.
And that concludes today's presentation. We thank you for your participation. You may now disconnect.
Well, very interesting. Once again, our friends in the, dare I say, mainstream media got it completely wrong. Here I'm looking at the report from KCRA News, and all they're doing is raising fear and discontent among the residents downstream of Oroville by saying that this unsatisfactory report is from an old issue with the dam. That's completely 100% wrong and misleading and misguided and uninformed. If you do not have an operational spillway, you cannot get a satisfactory rating for your entire reservoir operation. It only makes sense. So once the spillway is operational, Oroville will get a satisfactory rating. It is not an old issue with the dam that the folks at KCRA and the mainstream media would lead you to believe.